Tracy Bonkowski. Here. Lucy Dilbert. Here. Rob Pennell.
Present.
Genevieve Rodzik. Present. Craig Sims.
Here.
Steve Vitale.
Here.
John.
And Ryan. I think Robin. It's Robin. Okay, Rob, you want to take over with the public hearings? And take over with the, until I get Reba back. Just keep going with, Rob, can you keep going with the meeting on the, start with public hearings, approval agenda until I get Reba in there?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
No, sorry.
Let me pull my agenda out of my pile there. I dropped all my stuff on the floor when I was leaving the office, so everything's a little trouble up here. I'm very sorry, I don't see the agenda.
See?
Let me go grab one. Is there one on the table? Excuse me.
Use my monitor.
Oh, okay.
Anybody else down here right now?
Because nobody's talking.
Let me unmute.
Tracy?
Okay.
Oh, Roger did? Go ahead.
Item number 2, we did. We'll call item number 3, public hearings. We have no public hearing scheduled for tonight. Moving on to item number 4, approval of the agenda.
So moved. Support.
We have a support and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Hearing none, the vote passes 6-0. Right? No, 7-0, excuse me. Approval of the minutes, December 1st, 2020.
Public comment on the agenda items.
Oh, I'm sorry. Number 5, public comments on agenda items. Please make yourself known on Zoom and we will turn you on. How do we make them?
Dan's live.
Oh, Dan's live. Okay, we got a live man here.
We got a live one.
Here, we'll take a picture of you there, Dave.
Yeah, okay. My name is Daniel Wayne, a Kirkgrove resident on River Oaks Drive in the Decor Park subdivision. In reference to the old business item number 1, Meadow Creek expansion, and I apologize, this was created within the last couple hours. I didn't realize, and I was previously told that there was not expected to be action on this item, but now I'm hearing that this could be the last matter that this is addressed. In any case, I want to read this prepared message. I send this message as a concerned resident of the Village of New Haven and resident of the Decor Park subdivision. More particularly, I am a parent of 3 young children, and I live on River Oaks Drive, the main thoroughfare that the Meadow Creek's mobile home expansion was at least at one point proposed to open up onto. I absolutely believe it would be the right and proper thing to do to indeed connect Meadow Creek expansion to River Oaks via streetway and sidewalk. As a parent of a 6-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 6-month-old, I understand the argument that it would increase traffic through the Decor Park subdivision, and that in doing so, it would ostensibly increase potential hazards to young children who may play in front yards along the main drive, my own children being a prime example. However, that's an unfortunate side effect of any development in an area, and one that comes with the territory, and something that all responsible parents should be mindful of and proactively educate their children about. I believe this is a disingenuous and weak argument to make, in essence, to support keeping the 2 communities separated. It's also a selfish and one-sided argument to make, as otherwise forcing the residents within this inevitable expansion to funnel through a congested single entry exitway within their own community onto 27 Mile Road will add immeasurably worse dangers to children and residents within their own community, as their streets and sidewalks are far narrower and more unsafe. Also, as a result, there will inevitably be far more traffic accidents at the 27 and Gratiot intersection, which has already seen its fair share of serious and fatal accidents in years past. Also of concern would be fire medical response times, which I can only imagine will be noticeably delayed for the residents in the rear of Meadow Creek expansion as compared to what the response times would be if it opened up to River Oaks. In more ways than one, this could be we could be talking about life and death differences for the residents of Meadow Creek. Not to mention the audacity of restricting access to friends and neighbors in elementary school and a playground that's just a couple football fields away, merely because it would be inconvenient. It would inconvenience adjacent property owners who have more money and would prefer not to mingle with those people. A connecting sidewalk is the least that should be incorporated to connect the communities. Do I want more traffic zipping by my house with 3 young children playing outside? No, of course not. Nobody would. I understand the increased hazard it poses. But this should not merely be about what I or other Decor Park residents want. This should be about what is best for the community as a whole. It is wrong, dangerous, and unconscionable for a village to block access to an elementary school playground and legitimate, intuitive, safe, and efficient avenues of travel between communities merely because it would be unfavorable to an existing residents who are demographically better off than those they wish to distance themselves from. We are better than that as a community. Please ensure that Meadow Creek expansion has intuitive access to River Oaks via roadway and sidewalk connections. It's the right thing to do. It's a safe thing to do.
Thank you. No one else is here in the room. Brian, how do we identify those that would like to speak on Zoom? Maybe hold a hand. I'm trying to race through here to... There's quite a few public here, but a lot of the public don't have pictures, so if you could please turn on your camera so I can see your hand.
I'm sorry, I guess, is this still the portion with the public comments?
Yes, it is.
My apologies. I suppose I would address the comments from Daniel when we give our presentation. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I see Trustee Colley. Can you unmute and speak, please?
Hey, hi, everybody. I am going to go ahead and speak up on, I live in Fort Park North. I used to live in Meadow Creek. I lived on Brookside Drive for 4 years in Meadow Creek, and then moved over here to Fort Park North. I'm actually going to raise my concerns in opposition to a walkway and also to a privacy fence that continues from Decor Park North, or from Decor Park, that proceeds all the way around and comes up to River Oaks. When I purchased my home, I was informed by the builder that that was supposed to be, that area was supposed to be a Decor Park North expansion, and that would be houses around the back side of that house. I am not, I don't believe that this has anything to do with trying to separate from Meadow Creek. As I said, I lived over there, enjoyed it. I had the second house in on Brookside Drive. Loved it, but was ready for a home, and moved over here. And there is a difference in home values from one end to the other. There's a difference in longevity, arguably, from one end to the other. I have actually, there just is a reality. I have had people stop and ask me what's happening in the field across there. And I have rightly explained, truthfully explained what's happening. And I now know of 2 people that have decided against buying Decor Park North because of that. My family and I are strongly considering no longer living in Decor Park North, kind of how this transitions forward. The reality is values matter. I believe that a walkway between the two will result in a parking issue in Decor Park North. Much to the opposite effect that the previous speaker spoke to, meaning that I'm coming down 26-mile road, I cut through. Why would I drive all the way around when I can park on River Oaks and walk over to my house? As far as the drive goes through there, I actually do serve on the fire department as well, and the assumption about response times and whatnot make absolutely no sense at all. We would not arguably, depending on the circumstance, we would not cut through Decorah Park Road to get to Meadow Creek. I also believe that Meadow Creek has a requirement for green space. It has a pool, it has a park. I enjoyed it when I lived there. It has those amenities. The aspect, I think somebody brought up some issues with the school buses. I never see a scenario where school buses are not going to go into Meadow Creek to pick up kids from Meadow Creek. I have 2 kids that go to school-age kids, and I would insist that I always have bus service, depending on where I live and whatnot. So there's kids that live on River Oaks Drive that get bused to school. So I don't think busing, is a situation either. So I just would raise, agree with the expansion. I got it. I have, read some of the documents on it, the public record. Don't have an issue with it at all. It's legally the right thing to do. But I do believe that there should be a barrier between the 2 divisions or the 2 homeowners associations, if you will, or the 2 developments. And I also believe that there should not be a walkway. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Colley. Again, can we have people please raise their hands? I'm looking.
We have Daniel that would like to speak next.
Go ahead, Daniel. There we go.
Good evening. I would hear Trustee Kidali's comments about the barrier as I'm directly affected by the said expansion. Some sort of privacy fence, I think, is highly warranted, just due to the layout of the manufactured homes. Somebody's pulling in a driveway. Most of these homes are driveways on the side of their house. They're shining right in the backyard. Population density, the noise pollution, the light pollution that's associated with this type of higher density zone versus a single family would it would be a good idea. I think that we should get some sort of 6-foot privacy fence, just to be able to, just a barrier between the 2. I don't really know what else to say. I guess, I can't, a 3-foot berm doesn't do us any good whatsoever. Thank you.
I'm just going to say your name if you're on here.
If anyone else would like to talk, please use the raise hand function or turn the video on and wave at the camera so we can see it. All right, I see Charles Irvin. I'll ask you to unmute.
I just kind of go along with the other guy said. I really couldn't hear the first bit of what he said, but there's people walking behind their houses now, and what do they think that they kick down the other privacy fence there? What's going to stop them just keep kicking it down and walking in our yards and stuff? I think the traffic that's going to be from all these other people moving in is not good. I think we was lied to for one thing, saying that nothing was going to be developed back there, which is a Lombardo issue, and but I just think that it's wrong what you guys are doing. And I'm sure that whoever the developer is, I don't know if it's that Mike guy or what, but I'm sure he doesn't have a trailer park beside his house, and I'm sure he doesn't want one beside his house. And I think it's going to destroy our home value. That's all I really got to say.
Anybody else? Don Atkinson?
Everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I want to elaborate what everybody else is saying too. 6-foot privacy fence would be nice, but is there a way, I don't know what codes are or anything like that in the city, but is there a way to have the 3-foot berm and then we can add a fence to the back of this? I'm not opposed to even have to put up my own fence. I'd like someone else to pay for it. That'd be great. But a 3-foot berm, it'd be nice if they split the property lines with a 3-foot berm, and if I wanted to go ahead and put out of my own pocket and put a 6-foot fence on top of that, I think that would be ample blockage for should say.
Mr. Atkinson, are you Mr. Atkinson? So we have your name for the record. It says Don.
Yeah, just, yeah, it's my wife's name, it's Don Atkinson, yes.
Thank you, Don. I'm just going to mention names. Mr. Dilbert, Mr. Osterholm, Mr. Lipschutz, a number ending in 91, and that's, I think that's all I see.
Okay, I should be good, Rob.
Okay, cool.
Hey Chris, I see that you unmuted yourself, but it looks like you're talking, but I can't hear you.
No, yeah, it is.
We still can't hear you, Chris.
I'm going to switch places.
Yeah. Did you have something to say? Okay, hold on. Okay, Mr. Dilbert, you can speak now.
There we go.
Oh, you guys, okay. Yes, my concern about this expansion, and it's one that I've raised before, is that unfortunately in the village of New Haven, approximately 45 to 50% of our residents are in this type of housing, between low income and manufactured housing. And that is a major concern while they don't support the services with taxes. They often require more services.
We can,
Can you hear me?
hold on, Chris. We're good, we can hear Chris.
Maybe the Zoom can't hear him?
Do you want to pick it up on yours, maybe?
Maybe put his phone next to a mic?
Hold on, Chris. I'm going to get the feedback, I think.
Yep, go ahead.
Yes. As I was saying, my biggest concern is that approximately 50% of our residents are living in what I consider transient housing, low income, manufactured housing. And while they often require more services, the taxes that are paid by that type of housing don't support those services. And I think in the long term, it is definitely going to be a detriment to the village as far as money that is going to be needed for upgrades and infrastructure and roadways and things of that nature. That's my biggest concern, is that they don't pay their fair share. And with that, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dilbert. Okay, is there anyone else that would like to speak? Okay, we're going to move on. So communications, correspondence, and workshop for everybody. You all
Approval minutes.
Oh, did we not do minutes?
We didn't do minutes yet, we were still
Oh, sorry,
on
okay.
comments.
Okay, approval of minutes from December 1st, 2020. Did everybody get a chance to review?
So moved.
Okay, Tracy.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. On to communications, correspondence, and workshop. We have the citizens planner class. I'm asking now that anyone who would like to participate to make themselves known. It's going to be all virtual, 6 weeks, so that we can get the registration. So Rob, you can redo it if you'd like. The village is gonna sponsor the education. So, Rob, are you interested in doing it again?
I would if it was a live, since it's such an interactive, I just don't see how it's, you're just hearing the speaking and not doing all the projects. I just don't see how that's, so I would retake it.
Okay. Steve, Tracy, Rach,
I just took it last year.
Mr. Tim?
Yeah, I'd like to, is it once a month, is it 6 weeks?
It's weekly for 6 weeks.
What day, it starts at the 18th,
I think, is it
Thursday
Thursday?
from 6 to 9.
Okay, that should be fine.
Okay, so Liz, do you want to take it again?
I just finished it, basically like the end of last year.
Okay. So, okay. Did anybody else have any other communications that they'd like to share? Okay, matters of consideration. Old business, Meadow Creek expansion, discussion, action. First, we'll hear from Meadow Creek. Mr. Boyle.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Perfect, thank you. Good evening, commissioners, folks in the community. Appreciate stopping out, voicing your concerns, support for the project, and comments, feedback is taken into consideration. Appreciate everybody reviewing this project. I know it's been on the agenda here for several months. It's kind of come and gone. Appreciate your time this evening in consideration. Wish I could join in person, obviously. It's the state of affairs in the world right now. We're all making it work, doing everything electronically, so appreciate you hosting us for that. As stated the last time we met, we are extremely excited as a owner and operator of manufactured housing communities around the country to make an investment within New Haven, the community of New Haven. There's obviously a lot of expansion going on right now in New Haven. This property, as we've discussed in the past, has been zoned MH for some time. We're excited that by right we are allowed to expand our facility within this area, this land, and understand that there are areas that we need to communicate what's going on and to seek approval for this preliminary site plan approval. But I was hoping that we could briefly review, I guess, the memo that AEW had presented, I believe last week, which responded to the handful of items that were raised during this process. I'm not going to go through that in great detail, but assume that the commissioners have all read that, and I know there's been correspondence back and forth. I believe that all the comments should address the matters at hand, again, for this preliminary site plan approval. Just to again state that we are seeking preliminary approval. This is one step in the process. I know I heard from some of the folks in the community that this would be the last step. There are other parts and pieces that need to occur later on down the line. This is one of the initial steps that the community has the ability and purview over to review for land use and zoning, which we are again by right permitted to use for the MH designation. The municipal water supplies, sewage service, and drainage, which we worked hard and invested more money to study the system and work with Survet on that and seek approval and understand that Tri-County was in support of our findings there, as well as compliance with local fire ordinances and state fire laws, which have been reviewed and we believe addressed here. The ordinance in the Mobile Commission Act 125-2311 goes on to state that this preliminary site plan approval shall be general in nature. The location, layout, and design will be described, and the preliminary plan shall not include construction plans. So, although we've discussed a lot of details, we believe we've gone above and beyond what is required in this statement, this part of the process. We hope we've satisfied the review process here, and we will be seeking approval tonight. So we wanted to open it up to the planning commissioners and see if there are already follow-up comments. Again, understand and, you know, there are mixed reviews from the neighboring community in terms of folks that live at Decorah Park. We understand that, and we've tried to accommodate by installing a berm in between the two properties. You know, we've gone back and forth with, you know, whether we would tie into the two communities together. You know, we wouldn't be opposed either way. It sounds like the village would prefer not to, and we understand that. And we will not push for that. And then there's a handful of other things, again, the sewer, the stormwater, those types of items we believe we've addressed with the engineering. You know, and as such, we feel confident the letter should suffice, and again, allow for this preliminary approval, site plan approval tonight. We appreciate everybody's time and comments on the project, and wanted to open it up and see if there were any further, I guess, questions. I'm not sure if that's how the agenda item goes, but appreciate, again, your time and consideration. We certainly don't take lightly as we expand our community. You know, as stated earlier by a prior resident, we believe strongly in our communities. We believe we invest, you know, in them. We strive to, you know, listen to our residents to enhance the, you know, the amenity packages that we provide and provide a good, strong community. We look forward to the opportunity to expand here, and again, if there's any questions, please let me know.
Mr. Boyle, I guess I do have one request of you to make. Recognizing that you guys have made lots of great effort to work with the community and such, we would like to ask for the grace of about a week to set up a special meeting for next week at your convenience. You can do Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. As you're aware, we received the communication from Eagle today, which at some level it has been discussed, but not all of our planners, because of the late nature of the feedback that we received, have had adequate amount of time to review this. So we're more than happy, we're grateful that you're working with us. We hope you can do that one more time. If we could set up a special meeting at your convenience next week, it would be appreciated. So that our planners have time to consult with our attorneys.
I truly believe that, and I appreciate that perspective and understand that that's been circulated around, but I strongly encourage the commission and the body that, you know, stands before this, you know, realizes that the Eagle consideration is completely separate and removed from this part of the process.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Boyle.
I'm sorry, I was just saying, we find that, you know, whatever letter that we had received communication is completely separate consideration for maintenance of a facility. It's a notification letter, and I'd be happy to, you know, to field any questions here, but again, you know, we think a preliminary site plan approval through the local municipality and other regulatory agencies are separate processes.
I understand your viewpoint. Like I said, though, with the late nature, we're really just hoping that you would understand the request for a 1 week postponement of this item on our agenda.
Are there any other questions from the planning commission?
In regards to other subject matters,
Yes.
I'll go around the table and field any questions that anyone else may have. Mr. Panett.
With all due respect, Mr. Boyle, you're not our attorney, and while you say yes, we should go right ahead and do something, that's not the way things work. We need to feel comfortable as a board that we're serving our residents, and quite honestly, I thought this project had gone away. I haven't heard about it since the fall. And then I get a packet full of information I don't have time to review in the time that I've had it. And there's so many matters to be considered, and while you don't feel they're necessary, It's kind of hard to take my name and put it on there and tell the people of the community that, well, the guy that's building it says it's all good. We need to do our due process as a board. And quite honestly, I think it's pretty arrogant and rude of you to take the chairwoman's request and say, no, we don't need to do that. She just asked you for a week, and personally, I think it should be tabled till next month. Right now, that's all I got to say. You can come back to me.
Okay, Commissioner Vitale?
Yeah, hang on a minute here. Or can you hear me? Well, yeah, I agree with Rob. I mean, a lot of this information was handed to us Wednesday, Thursday, Friday evening, and just need time to actually comprehend what all this means, since this will be our decision, and it's not just our decision, it's for the good of the village as well. So at the time, there's just a lot of information I just need to read and understand. Then I probably will have questions, for sure, but at the time I don't have any because I gotta actually understand what everything means at this moment. That's all I have.
Commissioner Rossi?
I believe that we have to do our due diligence, but I also think that maybe we need to turn our attention to our attorney and find out what their recommendation is. Because we did get the information in a timely manner, I feel personally, and if we didn't feel it was in a timely manner, we need to just say something sooner. Yes, there was some stuff that came late today that I agree not happy with. We need a little bit more time, but I think it should really, we should ask our opinion to our attorney.
Brian was just saying he couldn't hear you on the Zoom.
Oh. Want to try that
Did
again?
you unmute?
Sure.
Yeah, you weren't unmuted.
I
Tracy.
apologize. Am I unmuted now? Is that
You're
better?
still muted. You're still muted.
You're still here.
Better?
There you go.
All right, I will start over. So I believe that we should all do our due diligence, yes. But I feel that we did get the information in a timely manner prior to the information we received today, and there were things changed as the day went by. So I would probably ask our attorney to advise us as to what we should do. I think that's why we bring the professionals on, the attorney and the planner and also the engineer. So I'm not sure.
Commissioner Sims?
I agree with others that we didn't have a sufficient amount of time to review a lot of the information that we were sent. We received 2 things today for our meeting next month. That will give me more than enough time to read it. I don't think 2-3 days, 2-3 hours is sufficient enough for us to review everything and to vote with enough information.
Commissioner Dillard?
It's not letting me unmute myself. Okay.
I also think that an hour and a half is not enough time to review information, and I would like a legal opinion also.
Okay. Okay, from there, I would like to ask our attorney, Mr. Kelly, for his feedback.
I mean, if it's an issue on, I know that there was a couple of memos that went out today, and of course I cannot discuss the content of those memos. You know, if the commissioners are asking for a closed meeting to discuss this with the board, of course, I'm not opposed to that. Sorry, I have an audio problems. I'm in agreement that there was an enormous amount of material here, and as a result, in order to educate the entire board, again, as I said, I'm not opposed to a closed meeting on this issue for the purposes of reviewing my written opinion, which is allowed under the Open Meetings Act, of course, but we could not be able to have it tonight because there's not been proper notice posted of a closed meeting.
I'm sorry?
Is that all the opinions that he gave today?
You can, if you'd like to ask him, I'm not too sure what you're asking because I can't really hear.
Okay.
Commissioner Bonkowski will be speaking to Attorney Kelly.
Mr. Kelly, that's for both opinions that we received today from you. We'll be able to discuss both of them?
That's correct.
Okay. I just want to clarify that.
Yeah, that's fine. I think that's what you're asking for. And again, I think that given the lateness of this notice and the complexity of both opinions, I think it's advisable to discuss this, but I make sure that everybody understands exactly what's going on here, because there is a lot to unpack here. And even with the extremely lengthy opinions to you all, there's still a little bit more to explain.
Okay.
Chair, can I make a motion to table this issue till next month's meeting, and in the meantime, we get a consultation and post a meeting for a closed door session with our attorney to discuss the memos?
Are you making a motion
Yes.
for next month?
To table this issue till next month, and in the meantime, we meet with the attorney, schedule a meeting, post it, all to the specs of the law.
Is there a second for that motion? To table
Second
that?
that.
Okay, second by Lucy. Commissioner Gilbert. For conversation, I feel personally we should not hinder this another month. I feel that in good faith that we should make our best efforts to get the opinions that we could have sought, in a timely fashion, which I think is reasonable for a week. That's my 2 cents. Anybody else? We'll start with Luz.
Well, for further discussion on that,
Yeah,
For further
between
discussion.
posting it and getting everybody's okay on a date to have this, with their own schedule, to have it within this week, and then have another meeting within that week?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
So you're looking to do it within a week's period of time, right?
I'm looking to address this and matter of by next week.
So we have to get everybody's schedules in line with that before then, so we have, and the time to post that meeting, and then meet again here as a body. I think we should.
We only need 18 hours to post the meeting.
We'll be good. Our professionals are available, and it would be, Mr. Boyle, can you hear me? Are you available next week?
I don't know if you can, please, yes.
I would be available, yes. So again, just to clarify, and I apologize, Mr. Pennell and Ms. Rosnick, if I came across as arrogant, that was completely not my intent. I didn't deny the request for the extension. I'm just trying to understand if there are other comments. Just trying to understand, in addition to the wetlands, which again is a separate matter, as I've been advised, for consideration from this commission. I didn't know if there was other information that was being considered aside from what we've reviewed in the past. And that's what we tried to present. Apologize that, we thought we provided reasonable time and presented in a manner that was pretty straightforward. I'm not sure, Mr. Kelly, if there was other items that came forth beyond the letter that couldn't be discussed at the meeting tonight. So there were 2 items I just wanted to clarify, please. Was there another item that we might not be aware of?
No, again, as always, I cannot discuss the contents of an opinion between myself and my client. However, I will say that it is 2 different written opinions that deal with the same subject matter. Of course, it's about this issue, but largely, yes, you're correct.
If I may, just to follow up, Ms. Rosnick, I'm Roger Myers. I'm actually legal counsel for the applicant. And I think the concern, if I may elaborate further from Mr. Boyle's perspective on his behalf, is that the request was to table this for a week because of the letter that came in. I'm obviously not privy to Kelly's communication to you is, because it's privileged. However, I can tell you from our perspective, we're not trying to be arrogant about anything, but what we're trying to make very clear is that it's our position, and I think the law is very clear, that the planning commission, the village doesn't have any regulatory authority over any wetlands. And as I've explained to Mr. Kelly, even if this letter that came in turned out to be a violation of a wetland violation, which we completely disagree with, and we're confident we'll provide the information that Eagle is looking for, it doesn't change anything. Even if there was a violation, it doesn't have any impact on the process or our client's entitlement to the approval of this project under the statute. And so what we're very concerned about is, I don't want there to be some sort of implicit acknowledgement that we're agreeing to table this, that we're somehow acknowledging that the village does have regulatory authority over the wetlands, and open up a can of worms that we just need to be very clear what the scope of the review authority is. And from our perspective, the letter that was received today from Eagles doesn't change that. It really has no impact on the review and the approval of this preliminary plan. So I just wanted to make that clear, and that's really what was driving the reluctance to table it for that purpose.
Thank you, Mr. Myers. So I'm just going to go back. We have a motion on the table to table until next month. Does anybody else have any conversations that they'd like to have in regards to that? Or do Mr. Kelly or Samantha, do you have anything to input on that? Okay, so motion on the table to roll call. Sorry.
That's okay. So are we going to meet with the attorney and then have action or discussion / possible action on this in the same evening? Is that the plan?
Correct.
The motion on the table is to table until next month and to schedule a meeting with our legal to get the legal, to discuss the legal opinion.
Oh,
That's the motion.
okay, thank you
Can
for
I
clarifying.
withdraw my second?
Can you withdraw your second?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think so.
I'd like to say on that, though, that if we meet with our attorney and we need to, this creates more questions, this creates more issues or more research, we're going to have the client, the petitioner sitting here, and we're still have to digest what our attorney says. And we should have the time after we meet with them to review what they've said and come up with any more questions. To have it on top of each other seems just like piling what we just did, piling information on top of us before we have a time to digest it.
Well, I'm sure we can have, Mr. Kelly, are you okay with further written communication throughout the week if the need arises in regards to the subject?
Mark?
So we'll have a dialogue that exists where we can throw things off of each other.
Right, but the closed session is going to only pertain to those opinions, Rob. So if
Correct.
you have other questions or concerns, would this be the appropriate time for him to ask those?
Yes.
Well, I would ask those to the attorney, wouldn't I?
Right.
Submit them in writing to him.
Well, let's just put it all on the table. If Mr. Boyle did ask if we had any other concerns that we would like to discuss.
I have concerns I'd like to talk to our attorney about, but I don't have I do have concerns that I'd like, that Mr. Boyle, the new plan that we got, he's removed all the sidewalks. There's no sidewalks on this plan now. Again, it's still just the one entrance into this area. There should be at least two coming off of Meadow Creek into this place, so that if they have to use one of two different entrances off 27, and then maybe they gotta use one of two entrances into this back end, if it's blocked at that one entrance into that for fire, they can't get to it. I got safety issues, I've got, I also have concerns about adding 164 things here. What amenities are being increased for the residents of Meadow Creek? Because they're getting 164 new homes, possibly 4 times that amount of people living in there. Are they getting a second pool? Are they getting a larger clubhouse? Are they getting, there's a whole lot more people going into when they bought into it. And I don't think we've really advertised to our residents there to say, hey, what is your opinion on this? I didn't hear from one single person today from Meadow Creek, but I don't know that they even know what's going on here. And again, my responsibility is not to speed through this for whatever reason for the petitioner. It's to protect the residents, and I want more information and I want more input. And I would like to solicit another second to put this at least till next month's meeting.
So, Rob, would you like to restate your motion, and we'll see if we have a second for that?
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we table this.
Oh, hold on, actually, you gotta withdraw your first motion.
Okay, I withdraw the first motion.
Okay, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that we table this matter until next month's meeting and give us ample enough time to meet with our attorney, to gather any other information, to get more input, and make a sound decision on this project, and not a rushed decision. And also that anything and everything that you're going to do with this project, that we get it submitted to us in writing. Like I said, the site plan now has the sidewalks removed. I think we should be able to make a decision when we have full and final information written by you guaranteeing that you're going to do what you say to us.
Is there a second on that motion?
You have a question?
Hold on,
It's a
we have a
table
motion
matter.
on the
Okay,
table.
okay.
Is there a second for that motion?
I'll second.
And Mr. Sims, second. Okay, Mr. Boyle.
I didn't know if I was able to comment or provide a response to Meadow, but the,
I have
Yeah,
another
sorry,
plan that
the
has
motion
them
on
on.
the table, we cannot, at this time. Okay, does anybody else have any comments on the motion at the table at the time?
I do. I just feel that, yeah, oh, yeah.
The first plan had it, didn't it?
This is the last
Sorry,
plan we
I
got.
have the detail on it.
And there
Okay.
were
So,
the middle plan that had the sidewalks shown on this picture, but they're gone. They only have them on one side, but
It's not showing me.
Which one?
I thought I had a copy of it, but there is another one.
The microphone at the bottom?
The big one?
Yeah.
Technically challenged. Okay, thank you for your patience. I have a concern of pushing them off, like, at this, because this could go on forever. Every month I could come with a new question. I think, yeah, I understand, Rob, that this went away and now it's back, but we've had so much time to ask questions if we had questions, or we were not or pleased, or we thought maybe it could go in a different direction. So I think in all fairness, I think we owe it to the petitioner to give them an answer.
I owe nothing to the petitioner. I
We
owe
owe,
to the residents of this
yes, you
community.
do, but I agree with you 100%, but at the same time, this committee, we have to do our due diligence and our homework, and we have to be prepared when we come to the table. Yes, I agree that this afternoon getting information is not fair. That's not fair to the petitioner either, and our community. But putting it off another month is,
You did
We're
look
in
at
this
the new drawing,
position.
right?
yes, we are in
The
this
sidewalks
position.
are removed.
We're in this position because things weren't handled properly in the past. Zoning was changed on this particular piece of property, and it didn't go through the proper channels. Do you agree?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
So-
I gave up that argument.
I understand, and so, but continuing the conversation on another month and then another, it's not gonna change. We have to ask her questions. Maybe you just pose some great questions. and maybe Mr. Boyle, is that the proper, can answer that for us now. Is that appropriate?
Appropriate after the motion, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Are you good?
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, anybody else? Okay, if you could repeat the motion and we'll have a roll call.
The motion on the table is to table until next month to give us ample time to meet with our attorney and to have the petitioner submit all info, all the final information on the site plan. Is that right? Okay.
This is a preliminary plan though, so can changes be made to the site plan next month? So if we meet again next month and we bring up sidewalks, can it be, if this is preliminary, site plan is not going to go through as is. We can request additions or subtractions to the site plan on the next meeting, right?
I think this is our last,
This would be it for us.
this is our last chance at formal communication.
Okay.
This is our last chance for formal.
So then your questions would probably,
BB doesn't matter. But if you give them the approval now,
I'm not asking you vote this evening. That's not what I asked for. I think a month is
too long.
too long. I think we could put a timeline on it. So, right, this evening, we all propose our questions that we have, like the sidewalks or whatever. The petitioner has, I don't
Fraser,
know.
you can say your.
Oh, sorry. I'm proposing not voting on it this evening, but not waiting a month. But let's come up with a timeline together. We're gonna give our questions to the petitioner. They have 48 hours to respond. Because today's Tuesday. And we would have those responses, then we can meet, then we can, if you have any other questions or concerns, you can direct those to the chairperson, and she can get that information for us, and then next week we can meet with the attorney about the opinions, which don't really have anything to do with our questions.
so next Monday, the 8th.
Or Wednesday, we can give it a week and a day, if that makes you feel better, Rob, or Thursday even. I think because we can meet any day but Tuesday, right, Jen?
Yes, council meets on Tuesday.
What do you think about that?
I don't think a month in a project of this scope and magnitude to our community is a long time for them to wait.
So-
They didn't come back to this meeting and say, hey, we have heard things that you don't like, and hey, look, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do this. That hasn't happened. So I think that because they want to recite the law to us, we need to get our things in a row and have our lawyers recite back to them, not us anymore at this point, because what they're saying is that pretty much the statute gives them power to do whatever they want. And I want all that spelled out to me very clearly and very succinctly, and I want our residents to hear that as well during this month. I think we got a lot of things that we can do between now and next month on this issue to do it right.
Now, that information about to educate us on the law, if we're not familiar with it, that happens in a public meeting.
Well, I know, but there's other things that I'm saying that the questions need to be proposed and the attorney needs to respond to those.
Mm-hmm.
That's not in a public meeting, you would do legal issues.
And again, if we could, maybe we'll put timeline
And then he can put the questions before the petitioner at this point. Our attorney.
I know that we, projects like this have kind of a checklist that have to be fulfilled. So if the petitioner, whomever it is checking all the boxes and meeting our requirements.
Well, we're one of the requirements. I don't feel comfortable voting on this yet.
I agree, not this evening. I agree.
And I think a week is
100%.
not enough time to get it all done. I mean, what if people can't meet on whatever day the attorney has available? Or within a month's time, we'll find a date. In a week's time, maybe we won't.
I think in fairness, I mean, this has been on our table for almost a half a year.
We haven't had a meeting since last fall.
Yeah, this is the first time in 3 months we've seen from them, and we got something on Thursday afternoon. Right?
Yes, and I agree, and Mr. Boyle, you are willing to answer our concerns from what was presented last week at this time, correct?
Correct. Yes, I am.
Okay, so we'll address those. But first and foremost, as far as, okay, let's back this up a bit. Mr. Boyle, would you mind addressing those concerns?
I know you have a motion on the
We
table.
have a motion on the table at this time. We'll pull the motion, and Mr. Boyle, I'd like an opportunity for our commissioners to ask you questions, not about the items from today, because we're waiting to communicate with our attorneys on that, but on the items you received from last week from AEW, your sidewalk concerns and such like that. Okay? Good. So are you, Rob, would you like to withdraw your motion at this time? So we
No,
can-
I'd like us to vote on the motion.
Okay, so a motion's on the table. Anybody, any other comments on that motion? Okay, roll call. You need it, anybody need it repeated? You good? Okay. Next month, so just for this term meeting next month.
Rob, no.
Yes.
Craig Sims.
Yes.
Lucy Gilbert.
Nay.
Genevieve Broderick.
No.
Steve McCullough.
No.
Tracy Bonkowski.
No.
Okay, so motion's failed. So Mr. Boyle, will open, questions up from our commissioners. We'll just go around the table in regards to concerns, other concerns they had about the information they received last week from you. I'll start with Commissioner Cannell.
All my questions at this point are going to be directed to the attorney.
Okay, so no, you
I have
don't want
nothing
to
else
address the
to-
sidewalk or anything with?
To add to them, no?
Yeah, I was gonna ask about the sidewalk.
Okay.
I thought I had, yeah, so I guess
There's the,
I just had,
Um,
sorry,
Commissioner, Vitale,
I may unmute.
this will be addressed to Mr.
Anyway,
Boyle.
I guess it was brought up that the sidewalks were in place and now they're removed, is that correct?
No, sir, they're shown in the top left part of the site plan as a typical note, and then I believe as part of the drawings that say that they will be contiguous around the community on one side of the street. Let me find a note that shows where that is on the drawing.
Preparation.
For a response, sorry about that. Note number 8 on the site plan is revised to reflect the 3-foot sidewalk on one side of the street.
Okay, I see it.
where?
Real small. Number 8. There. Great.
And earlier raised the 2 entrances into the expansion area. It was my understanding that the fire department was in approval of the drawing, and we were all right with it as submitted previously. So I was unaware that was
Is
still
there two?
an issue that was open.
Okay. That's the only question I have right now.
Thanks, sir.
Commissioner Bonkowski.
Yes, I just have a couple questions. So, you just addressed the sidewalks, thank you. Now, the second entrance, I understand the fire department did give you the permission that 1 was enough, 2 wasn't needed. Would you consider adding another entrance? Sorry.
I think that's something we have to consider, within our community. We've got residents that obviously live within our community today and have homes that would restrict the ability potentially to allow 2 entrances in. We plan for 1.
in the best interest of our community and the concern about the traffic and things like that, are you willing to take the time to look at that second entrance if we come up with a timeline this evening about when we would need responses?
I think we certainly can look into it and see if it's a viable option for us. Yes, we'll be willing to go in and take a look and see if that would fit into our program.
Okay.
The community layout.
Okay. And so, and then my next question is, the burn. This evening is the first time, in the past there has been one resident that has been coming to the meeting, and I apologize, 2 residents and talking about it, but this evening we have had an influx of people with some concern about a burn, that they preferred a fence, I believe is what they said. And what is the feasibility of you changing from a burn to a fence?
No, I think it was our understanding from our developer to the west of our site that the berm was the preference. Certainly, I understand there is community. I see some folks that don't agree with that statement, and we understand that. We certainly could take that into consideration, but seeing that there are concerns that down the road it's been kicked down, and don't know that a plastic fence is a viable option, whereas perhaps a berm that's permanent, the landscaping is more of a screening, but also recognize that 2 similar uses in residential zoning do not necessarily require a fence. And as such in the past, I think it's been the owner that has provided those along the boundaries between the 2 properties.
Okay, so the burn to fence is off, discussion is off the table. We agree to that, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then there's been some discussion. I was under the impression that they were looking for a connector sidewalk. We had a resident here this evening asking for a connecting road. I'm not sure about that, but I know we did discuss connecting for connectivity within the community, specifically those children being, or families, whomever, being able to come through a sidewalk to get through, to possibly cut, maybe to get to the Gratiot corridor, versus cutting through yards. So is that something that are you considering that? Have you talked to the developer about that?
Yeah, I believe they are agreeable to the discussion. We've got it noted that we'd certainly include one, connection, a sidewalk connection from one community to the other, if that was the direction that was, requested of us. Yeah.
Requested by whom, though?
I think last time we were in the meeting, that was the note that I had taken away. Referring back to AEW's response, let's see. So one of the comments on the 3rd page of AEW's response letter, that additional comments, sidewalks connecting the Meadow Creek expansion to the existing Decor Park North. In our response to item number 2, we had stated that when the request was for complete sidewalk circulatory system as noted in site plan, we provided that note 8 has been revised to reflect a 3-foot sidewalk, and that additionally the owner agrees to provide a sidewalk connecting to the existing sidewalk with Decor Park North. So if that's the direction, we would certainly include that. That's what would be requested.
And just a very quick clarification, that comment requesting, I think your question was who requested that? That came from planning commission or planning comments that we received after the last meeting.
Correct, that's what I'm asking. So, but have you had the discussion with Lombardo is aware that your intention is to put a sidewalk there to their sidewalk? Do you have to have their permission?
Well, he owns the property right to the block.
Their sidewalk.
They own the property right up to the sidewalk on River Oaks.
Okay,
So
that's
it's
what I
nobody
got.
else's business if he puts something there. He owns right to that piece.
But the sidewalk that I see, it goes like this. Where's the map?
I guess I can clarify a little bit on that as well if you'd like me to.
But the sidewalk. Does it go all the way to the sidewalk?
That's actually the driveway that's there right now.
Okay, so this is all their property. That's what I wanted, my concern was.
And were they gonna fix this driveway and make it back into a curb cut?
Well,
There's all
this
sorts of
is the
things.
time to ask these questions.
Okay, so there, has offered to answer your question. Yuli.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, yes, I remember his face now. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Go ahead.
And I believe your question was, has the adjacent property owner, in this case being Lombardo, been involved in discussion with the sidewalk and are they amenable with that connection? The short answer to that is yes. They are aware of it, and they do not object to the connection of the sidewalk. And just a point of clarification, when two private properties join sidewalks, because these sidewalks are private, they are not public sidewalks, they would need to agree to it. And again, in conversations with them, they do not object to that connection of the sidewalk. And if this body and this planning commission and planning department would like to have that connection of the sidewalk, the letter that would provide a response to say that yes, we would install it. As this body, if you guys still would like that connector walk. I know there was some comments before about not having it or having it. The response just says that if the planning commission and planning department still would like that connector walk, the owner has agreed to put it in.
I would like it to look nice. That's what my goal would be. I don't live there, but I think it would be appropriate for me to expect it to look good. Right now, it's just, as Mr. Cannell said, it's kind of just this little sidewalk or the apron for the driveway approach. So I guess maybe we'd kind of like to know what I would like to know what that's going to look like, and that property is going to be maintained by Meadow Creek.
It's open.
So, and we can talk about it, but I think maybe we need to see that in writing, and those are the things that Mr. Cannell is concerned about. He wants to see it in writing, so he has affirmation that this is what's gonna happen. Is that possible?
Regardless.
If we go for the timeline?
Has to be fixed. So they can driveway taken away for the road. And either finish the sidewalk.
My answer is, my understanding of the letter response is in writing, committed to the development is not.
Well, right.
The sidewalk.
Yeah,
People
I
always go to the
understand that
street
piece
and
of it,
walk
but
the sidewalk.
it's not telling us what
They
it's
want a
gonna look
sidewalk, but
like.
they'll walk over these people's grass.
Right,
This road will not.
maybe I have a misunderstanding, but,
If he fixes it.
you know, the preliminary site plan doesn't need to show every detail, but we could talk about providing that one. That would be handled at a later date with the building department, or
But it does
the
right
building
now, as
plan
far as-
process, so I would think,
The driveway.
that level of detail, we certainly would be
They're-
amenable to show a detail for that if that's the direction requested, but we put it in writing that we'll provide a sidewalk if it wants it to be 4 feet or 5 feet or a little more, have a little more width than the typical 3 foot throughout our community, we would be amenable to that. We can write that into a note or stipulation as part of the approval. We have no problem with that, to amend the letter that we've committed to from AEW. That would not be a problem.
It's just
Is it
right
gonna be
now.
up to the HOA?
Pardon?
No, go
Is
ahead,
it going to
Tracy.
talk to the HOA?
Go ahead, Tracy.
I'm not sure where the HOA would come into play, but I know right now that it has that apron that's probably, can somebody give me a driveway width?
Well, it's the width of the road.
This,
that-
you're talking about this, that's the court.
I'm talking about,
Oh,
I'm talking
on
about
that part,
yes.
okay.
The apron is the other side of the road on the other side of the street.
The HOA does not want any type of sidewalk between the two communities.
I don't know if there was that.
Just ask for public comments, we do it this time. Thank you.
You wanted it separate, not connected.
I understand that, but it's written in there that they're gonna put a sidewalk right now. Okay?
Let me just interject. There has been communication from the homeowners association of Decorah Park North, and that they may not, this is not something that they want to enter. So I'm just putting that out there as that communication does exist.
Okay.
Can I put it out there too, that this street goes almost to the sidewalk and no one's gonna give a rat's ass if there's a sidewalk there? They're just gonna walk off the street and to the sidewalk and make a hole in grass. I mean, there's no fence. They're gonna cross at every point into these people's backyards. I mean, that's just the way it is. A berm does not stop me from walking up, walking over, and walking across.
I understand that, but we're going by this, what they presented to us that they're going to do. And according to that, it says there's going to be a sidewalk. So now, if the Core Park HOA doesn't want a sidewalk, I think maybe that should have been brought to our attention before now. Because then that needs to be changed. If that's,
Well, it's not on the site plan. It just says in a letter that if that's what they want, that's what they'll provide.
Should be said that was in a very informal,
okay,
dialogue of people that have shared that information.
okay,
It did not come from a formal request
okay.
to
That's good
the
to know.
commission.
Okay.
That being said, I think that does need to be explored in speaking to both council and engineering today. I'm not sure yet if that falls on planning table or their table.
Okay.
But it might fall on ours at some point, it might not, I'm not sure. If this is something that's between them, or if it's something where we decide. So that's something else.
Okay, because I'm just repeating, this is our last opportunity to ask questions or express or make changes, so.
If you look at the berm.
Yeah, I think that's all I had on my list.
Commissioner Sims, sorry. Commissioner Sims?
I had concerns regarding the berm as well. To my recollection, the body never requested a berm. It requested something along the lines of a permanent fence, wall, division, so that there was no trespassing or potential vandalism of the homes that are along that. So I'm not sure where the request, you said that we gave you for a berm. 3-foot berm, it shows absolutely no deterrent to anybody that's over 2 years old. I have a berm behind my home. There are kids constantly climbing it. There are trees, there are bushes, they climb through them. They don't care. So I don't think a berm is an appropriate barrier between the two properties to protect the people of the Core Park market.
Yeah, this homeowner can shore that up.
Would anyone from out of like to respond to that, or you good? Commissioner Gilbert?
No question.
Commissioner Gilbert has no question. I guess I had one question or one request, with the regards to the berm. Some people have requested if you guys would have some flexibility in what type of greenery you put there, deciduous trees versus coniferous trees type bushes. Is there flexibility? Can we communicate that to you when we next meet? Is that something you're flexible with? Mr. Boyle? I can't hear you.
Lost. Right. There we go.
Yes, certainly, we would take that into consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so everybody good with their questions as to any other concerns with Meadow Creek going forward? Okay. Where would the commission like to go in regards to addressing our legal counsel and concerns in regards to the communication we received today? Would any, is everybody well, I guess I'll ask for a motion as to where we'd like to go forward with this. Would we like to address this one day next week? So that we can get the counsel that we need to make this decision.
So at the end of next week, I'll make a motion to meet next Thursday. I don't know what that date is off the top of my head.
February 10th.
That's okay. That we can meet with council, this gentleman is talking, do we know that?
Oh, Mr. Myers, we have not, we were not aware you were talking and did not hear anything you said.
Oh, my apologies.
Nope, you're good.
I just wanted to just follow up. I know that Mr. Boyle has, and Mr. Sala has answered a lot of the questions that related to the submission last week. With regard to this issue that arose today from the letter from the Eagle, there's nothing further that we will be submitting relative to that because it's, as I indicated earlier, it's really beyond the purview of the village's review of this preliminary site plan. I mean, we'll deal with Eagle and whatever comes of that, comes of that. So I just want to put that out there because there won't be anything further that we would be able to or would submit relative to that issue for purposes of this review. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nothing like good legal advice from the person, the petitioner.
Okay, Tracy, actually, it is February 11th.
Okay, so February 11th, and
You're
we'll,
seeking counsel,
hold on. This is
your
all.
council's opinion on jurisdiction of Meadow. I understand that. Just from a procedural and how this process goes along for manufactured housing, because it's different than other developments. You guys do issue a preliminary site plan approval. In order for us to get a building permit and put a shovel in the ground, we will need the state to approve this project. The state goes through the full engineering review, and in that state review, they also review wetlands. That is part of the state review. So I understand you guys are a little uneasy about what's happening with the wetlands, and I understand that you guys would like to speak to your attorney on that. From a procedural approval path, the wetlands will get addressed through the state. It is part of the state's review. That's all.
Thank you. Okay, is there any other comments from Meadow Creek? Are there any other comments from Meadow Creek? Okay. Tracy, go ahead.
Mr. Boyle's talking.
Oh, Mr. Boyle, are you talking?
No, we just appreciate your time and consideration. We think we're a valuable member of the community. We think our residents are. We think that what we strive to create in our communities is something that is sought after. We hope we can find a way to make this site plan approval happen, and we can again invest further into the Village New Haven. So thank you again for your consideration and time.
Thank you. Okay, Tracy.
So Thursday, the 11th, we meet, we'll have a meeting, a standard meeting, and we'll meet with our attorney to discuss that information, attorney-client privilege first, and then we'll proceed with the regular meeting. I'm muted, I apologize.
You're muted right now.
I apologize, I was unmuted. Okay, February 11th, schedule a standard meeting. First, we'll meet with the attorney for attorney-client opinion privilege, and then proceed to continue the old business discussion, possible action. We can maybe even meet earlier if that helps. I don't know what everybody's schedule is.
Same time, 7 o'clock?
Let's do this first.
Flexible.
Sorry, let's do this.
That's my motion.
Attorney Kelly, are you available on Thursday the 11th? At 7.
My schedule's open.
Sir Matt, where are you? Are you available on Thursday, February 11th?
Yes, I am.
Representatives from Meadow Creek, are you available on Thursday, February 11th at 7?
That would work for me. Thank you.
Mr. Myers and Yuli?
Yes, that would work for me.
Okay. Commissioners, everybody good for Thursday?
I doubt I'll be here. Next week is Cole's 16th birthday. Love all you, but I couldn't not spend time with you instead of him.
Is that his birthday?
We're supposed to do something on Tuesday and Thursday, I believe. I don't know for sure. I wasn't planning to have a schedule.
Could we make it Wednesday, Rob, with that?
I honestly don't know. Stacy made plans. I don't even know what they are. I just know that we got a lot going because it's a big day. We're trying to make it since you can't have a party, to make it as special as we can
Is Wednesday the day you're most likely to have flexibility?
Most likely. I don't know. I really don't. It doesn't matter.
But Tuesday and Thursday are not.
I think you can have it Thursday. It doesn't matter if I'm going to submit my questions to the attorney and I'm done. They're not giving anything, we're not going to get anything, and it's a done deal. I'm good. Thank you.
Tracy, would you like to keep with Thursday or do you want to go for Wednesday?
I'm available any day except Tuesday, so it doesn't matter to me.
Everybody else good with Wednesday? The 10th?
That works.
Okay, again, I'm going to go, Attorney Kelly, you're good for Wednesday the 10th?
Yeah, I said my first one. Okay.
Sir Matt, Wednesday the 10th?
I'm sorry, 7? Yeah, I have another board on Wednesday. Before that or later, like 8 or 8:30 would work.
That's too late.
Yeah, we might be.
I apologize.
We're an old bunch.
Don't change it on my account, please don't. Leave it Thursday, absolutely.
Okay. So, Tracy, would you like to make a motion?
What time are we doing, 8:30?
No, and the motion I thought was to meet next Thursday.
Thursday at 7.
That's
Oh, okay.
legal counsel to discuss and then proceed with the meeting.
Okay, is there a second on the motion for Thursday at 7? Okay, we'll do a roll call on that one as well.
Tracy Bonkowski,
Yes. Yes.
Lucy Dilbert. Yes. Rob Pennell,
No.
Genevieve Ronzik,
Yes.
Craig Sims,
Yes.
and Steve Vitale.
Yes.
Okay, so for clarity to Meadow Creek and our professionals, Thursday, February 11th at 7 p.m., we will hold a special meeting in regards to this subject.
Presentation is 7 p.m. to start for public, or are you having a full board meeting first?
We'll do the closed door session first, so I'd be guessing 7:30, but we'll enter into our meeting and then go into closed session.
Understand.
Okay.
So between now and then, Ms. Rodzik, is he going to provide the questions that can all get clarified?
Yes, I would encourage anybody at the table, if you have any questions, please forward them appropriately to our attorney or our engineering. And if they need direction to anyone else, we'll take it from there. Or they can make those determinations. Unless you just want to have like, where they all come to one person and then.
I think everyone should see everyone's questions. I think that's helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, that way you don't have 8 questions.
Does this come with their own questions?
Sorry.
Come with their own questions or submit them?
Try to submit them prior to next week so that we can have answers. I will ask that if you have any questions at this point in time, try to have them to our professionals by the end of this week.
Just
So that-
email everything to Sean or?
CC everybody.
Okay.
So that everybody knows what questions are being asked, so they're not being replicated.
Perfect.
Okay?
Could I ask that we shorten that timeline to like 48 hours
For personal questions?
for questions? Does anybody object to that? Because that gives them time to get the information back. That gives them 48 hours to get it back to us, and then us at least 24 or another 48 to digest.
Okay.
Does anybody object to that?
No.
Okay, so you get questions by Monday, Tuesday?
So what's today? Tuesday, so Thursday.
Thursday.
Before, okay.
Okay, so
Questions by before.
everybody good on that? Questions to our professionals by Thursday, if you have any, or concerns? Okay.
Yes, we need to rush.
Thank you very much to all the Meadow Creek staff for being here tonight and answering all of our questions. Did you, Mr. Boyle?
Thank you.
Yes, thanks. Okay, moving on our agenda, master plan online survey, basically an update and a discussion. Has everyone had a chance to review and answer our master plan survey, seen, visible to everybody, and all that? John, if you'd like just to provide some feedback on where we're at with that.
For sure. So far we have 83 responses. It's actually one of the most we've ever had in a master plan survey, so it's very encouraging to see. A lot of really good feedback, a lot of useful information in terms of reasons why people are living here, what their sense of community is, some good comments about facilities and other things like that related to parks and recreation and connectivity. So we'll keep the survey open for a little bit longer, and once that closes down, I'll do a full analysis for what that all means, like breakdown of feedback, and then I will inform all of you like what that was, and include that into the master plan. So.
What's a little longer?
What was it?
How long is a little longer?
It really is up to your discretion.
Oh, okay.
So like, we've been open for about 3 weeks, I believe. If we want to keep it open for another week or another 2 weeks, that's welcome. Whatever you guys would like to do, we can make it amenable. There's really no specific requirement for what that should be, but it's up to you guys' discretion.
I'm excited to read them.
Yeah, I did repost it tonight, so.
Josh, I was going to ask if our village Facebook page should repost it.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in 2 weeks, so
Yeah.
people may have missed it.
Yeah, I reposted it again tonight, so maybe we'll try again, and maybe if everybody's good with this, we'll just repost it once a week, and then when it kind of tapers off, as a good indication that we're just not doing anything more.
Okay.
Play it by ear.
I'll keep an eye on the response rate, and then I'll let you know how it's going.
Okay. Our next subject is under new business. Sign ordinance concerns, discussion action. We're probably not going to take any action on that, just throw it here, but we have Mr. Van Kerkhoff here, who has brought some concerns to us in regards to our sign ordinance as far as interpretation. So John has had an opportunity to give him some communication today in regards to some of his concerns, but I did invite him here to give us a little bit more clarity so we can decide whether we want to revisit it, possibly, if there is anything to revisit, because maybe we're just stuck with what, the legalities of what we have. If it's something that we can fix or modify a little bit to help Mr. Van Kerkhoff with his job. Yeah.
So,
actually, can you get, how will we do that with him?
I can just try to talk loudly when people
Yeah.
come home and hear me. Can anybody hear me at home on the Zoom meeting? I think we're going to get a thumbs up. Oh, Rachel was muted.
Sean says not so loud.
Okay, I hope everybody can hear me. So currently,
Hold on just a second. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, now we can.
Okay, Sean, can you hear here?
I can hear them okay. Not great.
is that closer? Is this mic is on? Oh,
Okay.
and I think they were on, that's right. So currently, the new sign ordinance it doesn't give me much to work with, particularly in terms of temporary signs. Now hiring, sale, yada, yada, yada. Just this last week, there was a prime example at the, staying closer? Okay.
Not too low.
Actually.
6 feet.
Needs a chair.
I'll start from the beginning. So the new sign ordinance kind of doesn't give me much to work with in terms of temporary signs. We're talking like now hiring, sale, promotions. What was the other thing? Some selling ammo and something or other. Particular example of that would be this last week at the southeast corner of 27 and Gratiot. The old sign ordinance, which was part of the zoning ordinance, and I got the sections of code if you want me to reference it. The old one was 515, as particularly relates to temporary. It was 515-118, particularly F, temporary portable signs. The new one, which is chapter 425-7J, which regulates temporary exterior signs. The old one limited to 14 days. It was pretty straightforward. I think that's a reasonable amount of time. Somebody's got a sale going on. It gets the word out. You're hiring. It gets the word out. I think 14 days is reasonable. I know you guys have talked, and there's been discussion about court cases in regards to what you can restrict and whatnot as relates to the content of the sign. I haven't heard necessarily what those courts have decided on duration of temporary signs, or maybe it's been interpreted that we can't prohibit the duration. But in any case, you have a section in the new ordinance that says temporary exterior signs. But it doesn't define temporary. It doesn't put a duration limit on them. And one thing that this new ordinance does is it allows, it puts a quantity limit on it per address. The old one said per development, meaning like the strip mall, like the property at 27 and Gratiot, you have various tenants. Each one of them does have its own address. So technically, by letter of the law here, since they have their own address, each one of them could have, and again, unlimited by duration, temporary signs out there. And as an example, we saw this last week. There were 3 signs very close to the sidewalk, not in the right of way, unfortunately, because I know those are prohibited, but they weren't in the right of way. But they were temporary and pretty eyesore, tacky signs. Another thing that your ordinance doesn't prohibit, that the old one did, was A-frame signs. The old one prohibited those. The new one does not appear to. And I understand, in some circumstances they're all right, but maybe you could further limit it to within a certain amount of distance from like the frontage of the building or something. I don't know. Again, I don't know what the court case has decided. But those 3 signs look pretty tacky out there, and I looked at it, and I looked at it, and I looked at it, and I wanted to do something. But by letter of the law, my hands were tied. So I hope you guys can revisit the sign ordinance, particularly that relates to temporary exterior signs, and also perhaps prohibited signs. There were also a couple other conditions that I thought would get tacked on. I think I expressed them prior to the passing of the ordinance, but I can revisit those too. Those are more minor. But those are my concerns with the sign ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I guess I'll start with John and your response on those matters, and then we'll go from there. Oh, sorry, Sean, did you want to speak? Oh.
Were you asking me? I thought you were asking.
Go ahead, I'll start with you, Sean. Okay, John? I'll start with you.
I mean, looking at the ordinance, we're on ECO at 425, section 425-12, and under subsection B, that's B sub 27, with a temporary sign right there. Bans applicable to other signs, including directional signs, requiring a permit intended for a limited period of display. This ban is called right about the temporal issue. I'd have to look into that. I mean, if he wants to give me a list of all of this stuff, and then I within writing, so that I can respond in writing, that'd be great. As far as A-frames, that's 425-12B sub 19. It's under the definition of portable sign. See a freestanding sign not permanently anchored, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Such as but not limited to so-called A-frame signs or T-shaped or inverted T-shaped stand. So they're in there. I know it takes a little bit to get used to with this newer ordinance. There's nothing that precludes us from obviously regulating temporary signs according to the new case law. The new case law was primarily concerned with content-based regulation. You cannot regulate signs on the basis of what they say, because that's a First Amendment issue. And this was a United States Supreme Court case interpreting the First Amendment as far. And it went so far as to the point where when we were working on this ordinance 2 years ago, I was concerned about even trying to categorize address signs, because now you're talking about the content of the sign being numbers and addresses. That's how strict this new case law was on this in the Supreme Court. But the rest of the questions, I kind of got lost in all of it with all of them. So I mean, if Mr. Van Cole wants to send them to me, I'd love to answer them. And John and I can work together on this and email and get everything together if you're okay with that, John. And then the board, of course, is all right with that as well.
Yeah, John, did you want to add anything more? I mean, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think Sean kind of covered most of what I thought was on the table. I know, like, I believe one of the original concerns when it came to duration was when it came to items that weren't necessarily just for sale signs or any type of advertisement, because you can't discern between the difference of a political sign and any other type of sign. So if you have a duration of like 14 days, that applies to all temporary signs. And that's where we were just kind of concerned, where it's just like that limited speech, I think is what we were, like political speech specifically. I think that's one of the original concerns with durations. But that's something, like I said, like we can have a discussion about more if there's a creative way of taking care of that. But I know that was one of the original spirit of why we drafted the way we did.
I'm sorry. Okay, thank you very much. So,
Can I?
yes, yeah.
Just make one more comment. In regards to one comment, he did say that the A-frame signs would be considered a portable sign, but throughout the ordinance 425, the new one, the only mentions of the word portable is in 425.12, which is the definition. It defines signs, and it says whether displayed on a permanent or portable structure. And then the only other mention of, and that's for the definition of the word sign, the only other mention of the word portable is under the definition of portable sign at the end. I don't see where it prohibits it necessarily. Portable signs or regulates it. Again, I'd love to continue the conversation with them, like you invited.
Yeah, we could, Mr. Kelly, I mean, could you answer his question real quick, and then maybe after this question, we'll take everything like to just a communication with you guys directly. But the question was posed specifically, where is the A-frame? Does it make the A-frame type signs illegal? Where is that?
Are you asking as far as where is, I couldn't hear it.
I'm sorry, I think you cited the attention to the A-frame signs. He was just asking for clarity on where that is.
Oh, where the A-frame sign is under, okay, so.
Is that what you're asking?
Where it's regulated, I know it's defined, but where are they further regulated?
Where it's regulated as to where we can address it.
Oh, like where does the term portable sign, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it defines the portable sign, but it doesn't say whether it's allowed or not allowed.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna leave that. I'm gonna leave this right now with Dan and Sean and John. And if you could, Dan, John has a communication. Put Attorney Kelly in the loop on that, and we can get those things addressed. And if it needs more concern, we'll bring it back to the table next month as well. Okay? Did anybody have any comments that they'd like to make on the sign? Commissioner Bachowski.
I have a question. It's not related to Dan's question, but it's a sign issue. We talked about inventorying our signs because we've set a time frame for our businesses. And I think we're into over a year now. So could you maybe find out, was that completed?
It was not it was not completed to the best of my knowledge. Dave, Colin was picking away at it. Is that still the case, Dan? Do you know?
I hesitate to comment too further because I'm not, there was supposed to be communication between myself and Mr. Cowan. Informally, we agreed on that. There was some follow-up, but it never materialized into actual scheduling of going out there and doing it. Particularly on my end, it's hard to do that. I always have an overflowing plate of stuff. Winter's it's getting a little easier now, but I always have an overflowing plate of stuff I need to address. And it is my second job. It's part-time, so I might be out there at 8 a.m. one day. I might be out there at 7 p.m. the next day. Hopefully not that late, but it's hard to iron out what's available. But there were attempts made to try to get something going, but it never materialized. I'm sorry.
Thank you. I'll work.
And the forms for the temporary sign.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he talked about that. He asked you followed up with the office where those
I think that is.
I think permit a form.
So I designed a permit right in the middle of this review of the signs and was told to put that on hold, so I can revisit that now that we've passed it. But I did do, based on other municipalities' sign permit, did that. And I think I forwarded it to planning, I might not have.
Okay. The direction to put that on hold came from which department?
Planning, because we were in the middle of redoing the sign ordinance, and some of it was not applicable in the new ordinance.
Well, I guess my question would be if we don't really, if it's a temporary sign, they don't need a formal request, right? They can just, I think that.
Now I'm recalling, right, we don't need it.
We don't need it because they can just put it up as long as it meets the criteria of size and.
I believe that's correct, but non-temporary ones, I believe there still is mention of having to do a permit, so.
And that's what it was, I was redoing it based on that, and they have a temporary in there.
Yeah.
Somebody said, hold on, wait until this passes, and we'll do it on that. But I do have a sample of it.
And personnel in our building department confirmed that they don't have any.
I gave it to Lori to review because she's the one that deals with it most, and it just got put on hold, and
should we continue that?
I will pick it back up.
Okay, not to give you work, Ms. Rachel, but I mean, I think we instilled a process and we should follow it. John?
Well, I was going to say, I believe the only temporary signs that are requiring some form of permit is a special temporary display sign, and that's not necessarily based on content, it's based on the type of sign, whereas like banners, inflatables, human directional signs. Those type of things have a duration as well as require a permit, versus the other temporary signs.
Yeah, it says right in the ordinance that the special temporary event display signs permit. They're issued a temporary permit.
Okay, anybody else, anything on signs? So, Dan, John, or Sean, if there's any reason to throw this on the next agenda to address further, just let someone know.
Could I?
No, it's fine.
But in reference to the inquiry, which I think is a good inquiry, we should inventory because I know planning does desire to. I know there was talk about writing a warning letter with some considerable length of time for non-compliant properties to come into compliance with some of the more permanent signs that just aren't in regulation now, and some amount of years, to my understanding, to come into compliance. So yeah, I think that is important. I would ask that somebody be able to assist in doing that.
I guess my biggest concern is food.
Right,
So,
I agree.
like I think what I'll do is talk to Dave and see if it's something he's capable of doing.
One of the other reasons why I wanted to do it with Dave is because it's a little bit beyond my comfort zone in particularly looking at a sign and saying, oh, it's under this regulation. It seems to be more of a building code, and I think his expertise would be more suitable than myself as well. So I can go around and take pictures, but then what?
I agree. I think we've got to find out, one, if Dave is capable and willing to take, like, we've got to reiterate that, and if not, then, I think we, maybe take it over to council and say, hey, we need someone to do this job.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Or we have to change the ordinance.
Or, yeah, because we really aren't doing anything with it. So. Okay. Anybody else on signs? Okay, planners report. John, anything? All good? Public comments on non-agenda items. We have Dan, Brian, and Trustee Polly. Anybody have any comments on non-agenda items? Unmute yourself if you do. Trustee Myson? No? Okay. Daniel?
My understanding is this part on the agenda was not necessarily just reserved for non-agenda items, but also for comments on things that were discussed between the public comment in the beginning and then the end. So I do have some comments that I'd like to add on that Meadow Creek regards. There was one public commenter. He mentioned he vocalized his opposition to the development, the Meadow Creek expansion in general, which I think we all understand that's not going to happen. It is inevitable. It's going to come. But what we can do is try to mitigate some of the negative effects it can have on surrounding parcels. And to that end, I never mentioned it in the beginning, but I absolutely 100% agree with some sort of physical barrier, screen barrier, a fence or a wall. I absolutely think that's practical, reasonable, and it absolutely should be included in the site plan, preliminary or otherwise. The fact that it was there and then perhaps not there now, that's sketchy. That has happened in the past and in years prior with other contractors, so please be wary of that when promises are made, but it's not on paper otherwise. Be extremely wary of that. Promises that are made that aren't in paper generally never come to fruition. So please, please, please take what they're saying with a grain of salt. Do not get your hopes up. If it's not on paper, it's not coming. In any case, to that end, he did make this person who was just opposed to the thing in general, he did make a statement which I agree with. He did say, and what good is a fence? What's to stop people from taking it down? He's referencing the current existing fence that's between Decorah Park and Quail Run. And at that end, he's right. It has been kicked down multiple times. Well, what doesn't Quail Run and Decorah Park have between the two communities? A walkway. There's nothing inviting. The people are going to want to go where they're going to want to go. If you have a school, a playground, a park within 150 yards of them, they're going to get there one way or another. You put up a fence, they're going to kick it down. You're creating an animosity. You have openness, connectedness. You're creating a neighborliness, trust, and respect. You put up walls without any form of trafficking through. Well, then yeah, they're going to knock it down. So to answer his question, what's to stop them from knocking it down? A sidewalk, at the very least, a sidewalk. You guys got to have a sidewalk connecting. I would say a street as well. And again, I am a parent of 3, right on River Oaks, the street it's going to connect to. I understand that it could elevate some concerns and hazards and whatnot for small children. I get that. I have a 3-month-old, a 3-year-old, and a 6-year-old. but it's the right thing to do. I know my time's limited, I'm not trying to be very long. So I think, yeah, a fence with a sidewalk and a street personally, but I think a sidewalk is not too much to ask. I do want to stress that we heard from only, I think 5, it might be 6, 7, 5 or 6 residents today in the public comment. They all came from Decorah and Decorah North. That's not a surprise to me. We have 3 people on our council that live in Decorah and Decorah North, including the president. Yes, they got the word out to their residents. I didn't hear anybody from Meadow Creek. And I don't think it's because they don't care. It's probably because they're not aware. I think a town hall should have been had. I think it's imprudent to make decisions on this without consulting Meadow Creek. I think within the 1 week's time, the least you guys can do is hopefully shoot a message over to them on it, to post it on their Facebook and get their input. Because I would bet my mortgage that the overwhelming majority of them would absolutely want some connectedness. So you'd definitely hear some different voices if they were aware of what's going on. So I think it's a little disingenuous to say that we've heard from people today. We've heard from a small handful, 5 of 5,000. We have a village of about 5,000. So I do think a fence would work as long as you include some connectivity between the communities. Again, we have a playground, we have an elementary school, we have a park, we got a walking trail back there. There's a lot of reason for them to want to head this way, and they're going to regardless. Give them a way to do it, and they'll respect the fence. I would think.
Thank you. Okay, so we had no one there. Call from the table. Anyone? Okay, and a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
At 9:02. Second on that?